Welcome to another Creative Podcast, where creative outcasts come together to share their stories so we can all feel a little less lonely. I'm your host, Janelle Marquez. Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of another Creative Podcast, or welcome to the podcast if you're new here. I feel like this is my last chance to get this episode out before the new year conversations die out. I know some people say like January is the longest month, or at least it feels like the longest month for them. But I would say my January has flown by. My birthday was just this last week and I turned 28, and I've done so much reflecting, especially because 2025 was the year that I did all the things I never thought I would do, good and bad. As much as I'd like to say that I'm someone who likes to reflect and look back on the previous year because, you know, new year, new goals, new things, all that stuff, I truly only reflect on what happened the year before, just because my birthday is in the middle/end of January. So I do like to just reflect on like everything I learned in that year. And your girl's officially in her late 20s, which is something I'm just super excited about. So as cliche as it does sound, I do want to talk about like the whole new year, new me thing/mindset, because I feel some sort of way about this. In a way, I feel like, yes, it's a new year, new me. I mean, like, let's state the obvious. I chopped all my hair off as we entered the new year. And I thought we could have like a deeper conversation about this whole concept. And so what better way to dive into this episode than to just start off talking about all the things that happened in 2025 that I kind of want to just recap for you. First off, I went like full in on my social media management business for the first half of 2025, and then I got extremely burnt out and my mental health tanked. I truly didn't think I was gonna live to see the rest of the year, so I had to get some help, and luckily we did the thing and we survived. But I decided to close my business, and that was like really hard because I felt like I let so many people down. And also, I was just a horrible business person. I was just not meant to be in that space. And like, I am self-aware enough to like admit that, because I truly had no business trying to do the business that I was doing, because I honestly wasn't mentally equipped to deal with it. And that's okay. I then spent like, I don't know, I'd say maybe like July through October just healing and getting better. And I did so many things to like get better. And a lot of that was trying new things, letting go of things, and lots of therapy. I'm talking like thousands of dollars worth of therapy. And I don't regret going to therapy. Like, the amount of therapy I had was quite extensive, but I will say it was so needed at the time, and I'm glad I did it when I did. So this is my little spiel in this part of the episode, that if you are going through a rough time, if you are struggling mentally, if you just need someone to talk to, this is your sign to get help. I will leave resources linked in the episode description for anyone who just needs to get any help. I think it's a very, very brave thing to do so. And some of us don't realize we need help until it's too late, or some of us just don't know how to advocate for the type of help we need. So that's my little spiel for you guys. But the end of 2025, one of the highlights for me, or like one thing I also want to know is that like I ended the year leaving a job that I had for years and going to a new job and then getting laid off from that job a month later, only to end up in another job that I currently am in, and I have been just loving being in. I think I'm in a place where I think I'm exactly where I'm supposed to be, and I'm so happy everything ended up playing out the way it did. Another recap slash like highlight of 2025 that I want to point out is that I learned how to slow down. I kind of was forced to slow down because my mind was just constantly running and I didn't know how to operate in peace. I think that's one of those things that just kind of scared me. I feel like my mind has always been a little bit hectic, and the idea of silence just frightened me. And last year I really leaned into that. I also really leaned into learning and being a student again. And I think this is the best way to summarize this whole last year, was that I was just learning how to unlearn things and learn again. So, Janelle, new year, new you? I don't know. In a way I want to say yes, because I have never felt more confident and more like my truest self than I currently do right now. I'm doing a lot of things that are instilling that confidence time and time again. And it's really nice to be excited to like seize the day. I'm also not too focused on changing things this year. Like, I've been a bit hard on myself when it comes to not having the routine like I once did. I used to have such a solid routine, especially this last summer, but it's kind of because I needed it. And I do think everyone needs some sort of routine, but right now I think I'm just still trying to figure out what that looks like. And I'm fine with not having that figured out right now. With the beginning of a new year, a lot of content that people push out is all centered around like forming new habits, letting things go, starting new routines, all the new year, new me things. But I've noticed a trend of there being people who start these new habits and goals and stuff like immediately on day one of the new year. And then people who are just allowing themselves to kind of ease into whatever newness they want to welcome into their lives this year. And I think I very much have become the person who's okay with a slower start. And I think that's because I'm putting less pressure on myself to do everything all at once. And it's quite refreshing because I'm someone who's just incredibly hard on themselves. And lately I have not been feeling guilty about much. I used to be someone who felt guilty for resting. I used to be someone who felt guilty for doing things I liked, even if it wasn't productive to my career, which sometimes I still feel like I'm unlearning that. But at the same time, I am trying to have a little bit more kindness with myself. And I think all of us can practice that this year. And another thing that I'm also trying to embrace more this year, or like welcome more of this year, is just being okay with not being perfect. And in a way, I feel like this comes with just getting older. But when I don't do something that I was supposed to do, or when I make a mistake, or even when I'm just learning, I feel like I'm learning how to just laugh at myself and not be so serious when it comes to forgetting things or making mistakes or just being bad at something new. I've always really struggled with not accepting that I can't be bad at things or being upset that I'm not perfect at things. But this year I find myself like really embracing being bad at something and like laughing at it. I also have learned from the last year that rest is the most crucial thing ever. And honestly, this could also be me aging. I think that when I was younger, and even a year ago, I was okay with not sleeping that much. I was okay with having really horrible dinners and lunches. And overall, I was okay with like neglecting my basic needs. Whereas now I need all my basic needs met or else I'm just going to be completely unwell all around. And I think to be the best version of myself, I need to really tend to those things and be better about maintaining my overall wellness in order to be able to show up how I want to show up in my life. And I'm setting realistic expectations with myself these days when it comes to that, because I know it's just always going to be a struggle to like have a good balance about that. But once again, we're trying to not be so hard on ourselves. For example, last week and the week before, I felt really, really guilty that I wanted to come home from work and relax and sleep and just kind of have my feet kicked up instead of editing a podcast episode. But at the same time, I knew that like, hey, I need to at least be able to show up to work because a girl has to work. And if I am not feeling well, I am not going to be able to work. And I needed to just prioritize resting over working on my podcast. And sometimes those sacrifices do need to be met. And that's completely okay. Something that I did these last 2 years that I actually haven't done this year is create a vision board. Not last year, but the year before, I created a vision board and I manifested just about every single thing that happened on that vision board. So because I did that, I went into 2025 thinking, oh my goodness, we gotta do it all over again. But my goals started to change because I was changing as a person. And so I redid a vision board and I could say a good chunk of these things did happen. However, as I was going through my healing journey, I wanted to prioritize being a little bit more present in my life instead of just being so goal oriented. I wanted to just exist in the moment a little bit more. So I took my vision board off of my wallpaper on my phone and it was actually really good for my mental health. So this year I did not create a vision board, and while it's not too late to do so, I think I will probably make some version of one, or I'm going to make a Pinterest board that just has a little bit of inspo on there. But for the most part, it's kind of it. As I sit here and reflect, I kind of feel like I'm exactly where I want to be and like where I want to grow from. And I will say, I feel like this last year, I was 50 different versions of the person I currently am. But I also feel like I was able to shed so much of me that just didn't fit. Like I literally felt like a snake who was like shedding. And last year was so uncomfortable and difficult, but I came out of it feeling so much more alive. And I feel so hopeful for all that's to come in this next year. And while I'm someone who like documents a good chunk of their life, I haven't really done like a reflection piece like this. So while this podcast episode serves as a conversation that I want to have with you guys, it also is going to be something that I'm excited to look back at next year or listen to next year and be able to actually reflect. I went through so much last year, and I thought it was really cool that my podcast served as a documentation of all the growth that I went through as a person, because the person I was when I entered 2025 is so far from the person who I am right here entering 2026. I'm so proud of how far I've come this year, because I'm gonna be so real. I was so miserable a good chunk of last year, and only very few people knew about it. And honestly, I wasn't even being honest with myself most times last year until I had to face the music and get some help and make some changes. As for where I'm at now, I can genuinely say I'm okay. And I guess the whole point of me sharing this with you guys is that some people didn't have a very great 2025, and that's okay. In general, I just feel like social media really is a highlight reel. Even though a lot of people share their vulnerable moments, I still don't think there are enough creators out there sharing like what really is happening behind the scenes. And I understand why. It's really difficult to be vulnerable on the internet. It's not normal to share your like darkest thoughts or be vulnerable in general with strangers on the internet. In fact, I think some people actually overshare, but I think there is a fine line between oversharing and being vulnerable. And I hope 2026 is the year where we see more creators continue to keep it real. And I hope 2026 is the year where we can create safe places on the internet for more creatives and people in general to just be okay with being vulnerable. Hence, one of the reasons I have this podcast. A lot of videos that I put out last year were very difficult for me to film and very difficult for me to post and share, but they felt important enough for me to want to do so. Even if 5 people listened to it, it was worth it for me to do all that. So this year, I want to continue to put out content that I wish to see more of on the internet. And to wrap up this little think piece on the whole concept of New Year, New Me, I wanted to share with you guys a couple of things that I want to do less of in 2026 and a couple of things I want to do more of in 2026. So let's get into it. So here's some things I'm going to do less of in 2026. For the first one, I'd like to consume less content. And I do have a whole podcast episode on this topic of how I believe that like overconsumption is ruining our creativity. So if you want to hear my thoughts on that whole bit, I will link it here. I'd also like to compare myself a lot less because it's in our nature to compare ourselves to people, but I'd like to be a little bit more aware of when I'm doing it so I could do it less, because I'm definitely much more confident now as a person and a creative this like going into this year than I was last year. But I think for my mental sanity, it would be best if I just stopped looking at what others are doing and just focused more on like living in my own world and my own brain. I don't need to know what everyone's up to. I don't need to look at other things unless they like inspire me or entertain me. That's all I'm going to say on that. And the last thing I want to do less of is like second guessing myself. I beat myself up so often, especially this last year, about how much like I second guessed myself because I learned that I should trust my gut more. Like my body knows more than my brain does sometimes. And I need to trust that a lot more. Ooh, and one last thing that I want to do less of in 2026 is doing things because I feel bad versus doing them because I want to do them. Last year I did a lot of things because I felt bad and because I felt like I needed to do them. Not doing that this year. At least we're going to do less of that this year. Now, what do I want to do more of in 2026? I think this is an obvious one, but I want to create more. I want to converse more. I want to have more diverse conversations with people around me and strangers. You just never know who you're going to meet when you're out in the world. And I really want to embrace new conversations, new opportunities, new friendships. Overall, I just want to be a little bit more welcoming. I kind of spoke about this earlier in the episode, but I also want to just rest more. I want to continue to do that. I found that like true rest and relaxation is just so necessary for me to function well as a human. So I want to keep that up. And the last thing that I want to do more of in 2026 is have fun. I jokingly say this often in my life, but I feel like when I left a job that I couldn't clock out from and started working at places where I actually clock out from the work that I do, that I got my personality back. I find that I'm a lot more unserious and I laugh more and I joke around more, and that, oh yeah, I'm actually funny. Like I've always jokingly said I'd love to be a comedian, but I am just not a serious person at my core. I love to be silly, funny, goofy, and I want to continue to do more of that in 2026 because it makes life feel so much lighter, and I love laughing with people. So yeah, that's just about everything that I want to do less and more of in the year 2026. Overall, I think the new year, new me concept is one that could be kind of harmful, but also if you kind of sit back and think about it, it's a concept that also brings hope. It's a chance to remind yourself that it's not too late to reinvent the wheel. It's not too late to redesign your life. It's not too late to start. And I think that's such a great thing. So yeah, I guess it is new year, new me. And I love that for myself. So let me know how you're feeling about the new year. Where are you at with your goals? What are some of your goals? What do you want to do more of this year? I'd love to know. So leave that in the comments down below. And that's just about it. I will see you guys in the next one. Bye.